Today is day 2 for my Bonne Maman advent calendar. Let's see what's behind door number 2.
Counter cooking. No kitchen, no problem.
Here's door number 2. It's right next to door number 1. This says spread love. I love how easy it is to get the jars out this year. And this is strawberry linden blossom spread. That sounds good. So when I think of strawberries, I think of strawberries and cream. And I think I would really like to try to make a scone in the Dash mini griddle. I haven't tried this before. I don't know if it's gonna work, but why not try it now? I found a recipe online for Irish einkorn scones. I have einkorn flour in my house, and einkorn flour is made from an ancient type of wheat. It is supposed to be easier to digest than regular conventional flour, so that's what I'm going to be using. And I found a recipe online for Irish einkorn scones, and I cut the recipe down into 1/4, or as close to 1/4 as I could get. And that's what I am going to be making now. So the first thing I'm going to get is a 1/2 cup of flour. This is einkorn flour. If you've never heard of it before, notice it says that it's easy to digest. It is an ancient wheat. It is the only wheat that has never been hybridized. It has a low gluten index, and this is unbleached and unbromated. So all that is good. So that's 1/2 cup of the flour. I'm adding a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and those are all of the dry ingredients. So I just want to mix up the dry ingredients here in this bowl. Now I'm adding a tablespoon of butter, but it says to cut the butter into small cubes first. So let's do that. I don't know how small the cubes need to be, so I'm just gonna cut them pretty small. I just took the butter out of the refrigerator. It says to use cold butter, so the butter is pretty cold. These are tiny cubes. There are my little butter cubes. It says to add the butter cubes to the dry ingredients. And then it specifically says to work the butter into the dry ingredients using your hands. So that's what I'm gonna do. It's supposed to end up with like a crumb consistency. So cutting the butter into such small cubes really helps it to soften fast. I'm trying to make sure all of the little butter lumps are mixed in so there's no more butter lumps. And I'm using just a regular sized pasta bowl. I'm not using an overly large bowl or anything because I cut the recipe down so much. But because I cut the recipe down so much, let's hope that it actually works. In theory it should, but you never know. Sometimes they don't. I think this looks pretty good. Anything that looks like a lump, if I try to squeeze it, then there's no lump there. So I think the butter is well distributed now. The next step is to mix in 3 tablespoons of heavy cream until a dough forms. This is the heavy cream that I just purchased today. This is organic heavy cream from grass-fed cows. There's 1, 2, 3 tablespoons. Use a spoon to start. I've never made homemade scones before, at least not that I can remember ever making them. I've definitely never made them using this einkorn flour before. So this is going to be a real treat for me. Looks like the dough is just starting to come together. I'm probably going to have to finish it off with my hand. I would say this dough is very similar to a biscuit dough, like an American biscuit dough, except it's a little sweeter. But now that I say that, it makes me think that I should make one of these in my Dash mini pie maker, because the Dash mini pie maker does so good with like biscuits. So I might end up doing that. I think what I might do is split this dough in half and then make one in the Dash mini griddle and then another one in the Dash pie maker and see how they come out. Because this original recipe, I believe it was supposed to make like 8 scones. But since I cut it into a fourth, like I divided everything by 4, I should be able to make 2. And if I can make 2, that means I could make one in the mini griddle and then another one in the pie maker. Okay, so this dough looks good. The recipe said to knead the dough into a ball, which is pretty much where I'm at now. Some of the other recipes said, you just want to knead it a few times once you're at the ball stage. So let's just squish it down a few times. But of course, this is different flour, so it works differently than regular flour, so I don't want to really overdo it. And then I'm supposed to shape this into circles and bake, but let me get a knife and let's just cut this in half. So obviously, if I'm going to try making one of these in the Dash mini griddle, I'm going to flatten it out. It's not going to be like, like a typical scone shape. It's going to be a bit flatter than a normal scone, like when you think of a scone. So I'm just going to flatten that out here, and I'm going to put this half aside for the mini pie maker. And this one I could actually shape like more like that, more like the shape of a biscuit, so it's higher. So the one in the mini griddle is going to be flatter, and then I think this is a nice shape for the mini pie maker. Here's my mini pie maker and my mini griddle. The pie maker's on the left, the griddle is on the right. Both are plugged in. The blue light is on both of those. As soon as the blue lights go out, then we are ready to start cooking. So it looks like the griddle's ready. I'm gonna wait for them both to be ready so we can have a time comparison. The mini pie maker is a little bit larger than the griddle, so it should take just a little bit longer to heat up. Let's open these up. Put the pie maker in first. Fits perfectly. And here's the Dash mini griddle. Let's shut these, and I'm going to check them in 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. Let's see what's going on here. The original recipe says to bake for 10 minutes, but I figured since these are baking from both sides, maybe 5 minutes would work. Let's see. That's what it looks like in the Dash Mini Griddle. It's nice and browned on top. I'm gonna say that's done. Let me grab something to remove this with. Here's the mini pie maker. Wow, this looks really good. And the dough has risen, but I don't think this one is done yet. So I'm gonna shut this. I'm gonna let it bake for another 5 minutes. While the other scone is baking, let's see what's going on with the one I made in the griddle. So this is actually the bottom of it. And then this was the top of it. Let's see, can we split it in half? How does that look? To me, that looks like it's done. I'm gonna taste a piece. That is so good. And guess what? It tastes like a scone. Tastes just like a scone. It has a dense but soft texture, and it's just slightly sweet. And now I'm gonna try some with the strawberry fruit spread. Also, I just realized that I did not taste this on its own. I was so excited about making scones that I didn't even think to taste this. I don't know if I'm getting much of the linden blossom flavor, but it does taste like strawberry jam with just a slight floral note to it. It's really good, very sweet. Here's my flat scone from the Dash Mini Griddle. The combination of the strawberry fruit spread on the scone is phenomenal. I have to say that. It's just so amazingly good. The scone cooked really nicely in the Dash Mini Griddle. I'm really actually surprised. And I definitely have to make myself a cup of tea. But my tea kettle is really loud, so I'll wait until I'm done filming. Other than the heavy cream, the only other cream I have is this whipped cream in a can. It's from Cabot. I like it much better than Ready Whip. I'm going to just put a little bit on here with the strawberry just to get a flavor for this. That is so good. It really kind of almost reminds me of a strawberry shortcake. Now let's see what's going on in the mini pie maker. So here's our scone, and it's browned. It has definitely started to brown. It's not browning as much as the one in the Dash Mini Griddle did, but I'm gonna say this is done. I mean, it feels firm. So I'm gonna unplug this. And let's see if we could take this out. That's what the bottom looks like. The bottom is more browned. Now let's see if we could cut this one in half. Is it just going to crumble into a mess? Is the inside going to be raw or cooked? Look at that. I think that looks really good. Maybe it could have used 1 more minute in the pie maker. Maybe 11 minutes would have been better than 10, but I'm happy with this. I put the fruit spread on one side, so let me taste it plain without any spread on it. Much lighter and fluffier than the one cooked in the Dash Mini Griddle, because obviously it had more room to rise and spread out. Super, super tender crumb to this. Like, it's so tender. Let's try the bottom with the fruit spread on it. The one on the bottom is like the best of both worlds, because the bottom part of it that was darker brown is nice and crispy. It has like a crispy bottom, but the inside is super soft. And I think this is by far the winner. If I was going to make a scone again, I would definitely make it in the Dash Mini Pie Maker versus the Griddle. But if all I had was a Dash Mini Griddle, it is definitely possible to make a scone in the Mini Griddle. It's just not going to be as light and fluffy as if it had more room to rise. It's still going to be delicious. The flavor is going to be there and it will have a nice texture, but making one in the Dash Mini Pie Maker just makes it even better. So that's what I did with day 2 from my Bonne Maman Advent Calendar. I am now going to make myself a cup of tea and enjoy eating the rest of these scones. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.